Hello, and welcome to another day of my Honkai daily grind. Today will be the Memorial Arena. So, first things first, figuring out which boss does what, and what's the best counter for them. Let's take a look here. The first boss, with bonus points. Let's see, they are a quantum boss. Recommended heavy attacks. That sounds an awful lot like I should be bringing Sealing Nymph for this fight. Oh, interesting. Their loadout is very different. I recommend the Lightning Empress and Anticipator and Pledge. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure what Pledge would be doing in this setup, as they're not all that useful of Valkyrie, unfortunately. This setup kind of makes sense, however, it's lightning support and ice damage. Again, the Lightning Empress is there just to feed in SP. She'll serve no other function in the team. And this team makes very little sense to me as well. It's Shadowtail, armor. Divine Prayer is the confusing part for this one. Other than to trigger Shadowtail's QTE to enter the battlefield, Divine Prayer doesn't really do anything for this team setup. So the recommended seems a bit weird to me, to say the least. Alright, well, that's that boss. Let's take a look at the next. Oh, robot. So, it's mech type. It's recommended you bring in heavy attacks. Let's take a look here. Same recommendation. Really? Similar recommendation except with Cherry. And then the Herschel of Ice. And these team setups make absolutely no sense. Primary damage dealer, support. But interesting. Alright, well, definitely not going to be going with their recommendations. They're, well, terrible. And the last boss here. Biotype, but extremely resistant to elemental type damages. So you don't want to bring in someone that does elemental type damage, as they won't be completely ineffective, but you will really struggle to get the boss killed in time. So the recommendations are, well, this team actually kind of makes sense. Except for Divine Prayer. Again, Divine Prayer you don't normally throw into a damage team except to trigger an effect off another support. Divine Prayer on their own isn't overly useful in a team. You have to bring them with characters such as CH or Starlet in order to trigger the effects that they cause to increase the damage of your team. But the other problem is... well, never mind, this is Night Squire. I thought this was going to be Fog. Fog is a lightning damage dealer. Night Squire is a physical damage dealer, so this team does work. However, Divine Prayer doesn't make a lot of sense in this team setup. There are far better choices out there. Let's see here. So, see, this team makes sense. Your main damage dealer is the Executioner here, and you've got support and support. And this team kind of makes sense. Unfortunately, the Ranger is not a very good choice for damage dealing. They're fun, however, they're outshined by, well, pretty much every other mech type damage dealer in the game. So unfortunately, they are not a good choice. This team makes sense, this one is weird, and this one can work, but is not a great choice. Alright, so I think I've decided on who and what and where and how I want to set this up. This being a biotype, and on top of this, it's the sword. The sword has a rather nasty attack in the middle of the field, but we'll get back to them in a moment. First things first, let's set up the team for this fight. Oh, and actually, I forgot something. You see this here? Autocomplete. It's actually going to finish the first 3 stages of each of these fights, meaning I only have to do 2 to finish this one, 2 to finish this one, and 2 to finish that one, meaning I only need 1 more day to get them done. So if I click here, because of an event going on, it'll take care of everything for the first 3 stages. And would you look at that? I get 100 Primo Gem, again, that's a Genshin thing. I'm going to do that now and again. So 50 Crystal, and a few other really nice rewards. So, see? They're now all at Stage 3. Stage 4 and 5 are the more difficult ones anyway, and often it's kind of a cakewalk to get there. So, we're going to be able to get 2 bosses done today, and 1 almost done. So let's start with this one. Now this is only being able to skip the stages like this is only during this event, which they roll around every once in a while, which will let you skip some of the more mundane content within the game. So, I'm going to go with a physical damage support to start with. And I'm going to run Seelie Nymph. Now, if you don't have Seelie Nymph, which I imagine a lot of new players wouldn't, she's a very, very solid shield breaker. There are quite a few options out there to break the shields through other means. Recommended teams, however, aren't overly great at it. The Anticipator is a good shield breaker. I really don't know why Pledge is on the team at all, and Lightning Empress is just there to give you energy. This is your main damage dealer. Replace Pledge with whatever you want for support for your main damage dealer. And Blood Embrace is one of the, not the easiest elf to get, but amongst the easier to get elves. And the reason that she's in this team rotation is because Blood Embrace does a shield break, meaning you'll have to do less work to break the shields on your target. Blood Embrace, when you use their ability, will break 1 shield on a quantum enemy with on a quantum enemy with shielding. Accidentally clicked there. Anyway, let's move forward. So as I said, going with Seelie Nymph. Now, let's step back for a moment. This is going to be a physical damage fight. This is going to be an elemental fight. I'm going to actually use the Herschel of Thunder, as she is exceptionally good at beating this particular enemy. This is going to be a physical damage fight, so I have to be careful in choosing my physical damage supports. Against this enemy, I believe I'm going to be running Durandal. I'll get back to that. The important part here is that I don't put all of my best physical damage supports in for this fight, unless I've got an equal comparison of physical damage supporters. So, something I do on the regular is I only go in with the minimum required Valkyries. It means I'm not going to get the full benefit of having a full team with full support. But it does mean I'll have more options when I have more than one enemy that I have to use the same damage type against. So I'm going to bring Starlet in for this. So Starlet can pop in now and again, drop down her little AoE debuff, and buff up Seelie. So, here we go. By all means, you can run with 3 Valkyries all at once if you want. It's just, for me, I like to give myself at least a little bit of a safety net, just in case things go sideways in a later fight. Or if I find this fight's going sideways, I can beef up their support. As you can see, I'm not really having much issue tearing through this particular boss. This is their second hardest difficulty. Yet I'm still, I don't want to say thrashing them, but I'm definitely cutting them down rather quickly. So that's one round done. On to the next and final round. They're popping the shield, getting a double hit in, boosting. The only thing I need to happen now is for Sealy Nymph's cooldown to finish cooling down. And would you look at that? Sealy Nymph in this particular mode is all heavy hits. And on top of that, the boss's shields are down. I get to waylay into them real hard. However, that shield won't stay down forever, and I'm not going to be able to finish them off before it's back up, unfortunately. There we go, knocking half off again. This boss really does not do well against Sealy Nymph. And look at that, they're stunned once more. Well, that was a bit of a waste since I actually finished them off. No matter. The boss is defeated. Sealy Nymph is amongst one of my favorites, especially against enemies where you have to break a shield fairly quickly. Well, that's done. More rewards. Now, on to the robot with a shield. Now, this is going to be an elemental team versus this particular enemy. They don't state they're particularly weak to elemental damage. However, they are weak against heavy attacks, and that only actually applies during a certain stage of the fight. This enemy will drop a shield on the ground to protect themselves. If you break that shield, they actually start taking additional damage. So my team setup is going to be interesting. Now wait a moment. Wasn't this Valkyrie in another team? One of the recommended teams, wasn't it? Was. Oh, and they did go with Wolf's Dawn, which is an elemental booster. Does that mean that she's good at breaking shields? It does, actually. She has some rather brutal shield-breaking attacks. However, they are part of a combo, meaning if you don't time them properly, you won't break the shield. Because one of the things that this boss will do is if you hit the shield without breaking it, they will counterattack and lower the shield, meaning you will not apply a debuff to them. So, with that in mind, I am going to be running with the Herschel of Thunder, because she does have a power attack with her sword. Next, let's take some buff. What should we take to buff this character? Well, a good choice for the lightning damage dealer is actually Fallen Rosemary. Another good choice, which is also a recent addition, is the Princessin. Surprising, yes? The Princessin is a self-sustained power attack. She can do her QTE attack, which is significant enough to break the shield on the robot, or at least it was. I'm hoping it still is. And on top of that, she also applies a lightning debuff to the enemy. She works quite well in conjunction with the the Herschel of Thunder. Now, since this is my only elemental team, I'm actually going to be bringing the elemental support, the recommended one no less. which is Wolf's Dawn. Wolf's Dawn is going to apply a flat baseline elemental damage buff to the entire team. So, elemental buff, elemental debuff, damage dealer, and both of these two can break the shield. So let's get rolling. Now, most everyone should have the Princessin since she was made fairly readily available to anyone playing during her event. That was the weapon attack to break the shield. Unfortunately, right there, I messed up. I accidentally hit the boss while they had deployed their shield without using a shield-breaking attack. Consequence was counterattack. But even without knocking off all their shielding, this is only level 4. They've got one more stage to go before they become a serious threat. Boss is defeated. It's going to be roughly just as easy in the next round, because the Lightning Empress is my apologies, the Herschel of Thunder. I don't know why I keep confusing the two. Probably because it's the same character, just at different stages of their evolution. Anyway, the Herschel of Thunder is extremely good at killing mechs, especially ones that don't have any sort of elemental resistance, such as this one. There's another shield gone. And again. This time the attack. That's twice now. Messed up on that particular attack. It's not going to matter too much, as this is going to knock out a large chunk of their health. Or maybe not. Oh, that's right, they're in Berserk mode, so this was unfortunately folly. I was able to take out a significant chunk of health, but not as much as I was hoping to. Really sure what I had struck with that weapon attack. We're still going to get this boss down. That's not in question. Assuming I'm allowed to attack. Apparently I'm cornered right now. I'm not allowed to use certain attacks. Well, the ultimate will get me out of there. I was already ready to fire off the charged attack, but I was not allowed to move to do it. Well, the fight got done, but things went weird. Getting stuck in the corner like that is, well, not completely unheard of, but fairly rare. Anyway, the battle's done. The boss is defeated, and the score is what the score is. You can definitely do better than what I did here. However, I'm okay with settling with getting into the top 20%, which I'm currently on track to do. So, final boss, final setup. This boss, as mentioned, is fairly resistant to all elemental damage types. They aren't immune, but they do take significantly less damage from any elemental source. Unlike certain bosses that are totally immune to anything that is not physical damage. So, it's going to be a physical damage fight. I'll bring my physical damage elf. I mentioned I was going to do something slightly different. Well, drastically different from what was recommended. Let's see if I can find her. There she is. I'm going to be going with this version of Durandal. Because this is a bio-type enemy, this is a mech-type Durandal, meaning she will do bonus damage against the bio-type. On top of that is Durandal, meaning she has the ability to upset the apple cart for the enemy's certain enemy attacks, such as its big AoE. If I save that lance shot for when it tries to do the big AoE, I can shut it down so I don't have to bother trying to dodge it. Okay, so add them in. Now, this is a physical damage version of the Durandal, so I want physical damage support. So this is a good, pardon me, this is a good choice for physical damage support. Now, this is also my last round, and I was able to get the first round done without issues. I might as well bring in additional support. I'm going to bring in, I could bring in CH, but I feel I should bring in the Herschel of Sentience. Herschel of Sentience is an excellent physical damage support. They're also excellent at doing damage, so if things do manage to go slightly sideways for me, and Durandal's not able to carry their weight, the Herschel of Sentience should make up the difference. Alright, here we go. Not really doing anything fancy at this point. I haven't bothered using the lance attack. No real point yet. Once I drop the boss's health down to 2 bars, however, that's when I should start getting concerned. You'll notice that my SP power keeps draining. That's because I keep standing in those purple zones. That's actually one of the boss's rather more insidious attacks, is to drain your ability power, so you can't actually use your ultimates and other such abilities that require SP. Now against this boss, I've actually broken their armor on the stage, something that's rather difficult to do on the next stage. So they never get a chance to do their big ultimate circle in the middle. And at no point did I actually have to use my lance attack to shut them down. I suppose I could have when they're doing the little circles in the middle earlier. I didn't because I wanted to save it. It does have a long cooldown. I didn't need to in this instance, but I still would rather have an ace in the hole, just in case things do go terribly sideways. So, that's all the attempts I can do for today. I am 1 away from completion, and would you look at that? I'm in 15%. I'm not going to stay there until I've got this finished, but I should stick around the top 20%, which will give me decent rewards. Getting in the top 2% is where you get the most rewards. If you look at the ranking system, let's see here. Ranking rewards. Top 2% pays out beautifully. Top 0.2% pays out amazingly. I believe you keep these frames. It's these badges, though, that are short-lived. I could be wrong. because there are badges you get from elsewhere in the game, in particular through the Super String Dimension, where you only get to keep that badge for a set amount of time. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's Honkai Daily Grind video for the Memorial Arena. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it, maybe learned a thing or two, and I definitely hope we'll see you again next time. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you then.